Welcome to the quietest ones in the room with your host, Trey. I gotta say it. Just the mere fact that you have clicked onto this video and you're listening to the sound of my voice, you by far are the most intelligent people on the face of the planet. So once again, thank you for joining me. A big topic that I often read about, talk to people I know about, and it's unfortunate that this occurs, but it's the unemployment of so many people in this country struggling to find work. I get on LinkedIn so many times and I see story after story of professionals who have not been able to find a job, sometimes for longer than a year. And they get on LinkedIn and they tell their personal story and they hope that someone would be able to throw them a lifeline and save them from the situation of not being able to afford their bills. And I mean, this is individuals from all types of backgrounds, women, men, black, white, Asian. It doesn't matter. I've seen it all on LinkedIn. And then I talk to people I know in my circles, and even people I come across just out and about, and you start talking to people, there is this continual belief that someone doesn't have a job because they're not trying hard enough, they're not willing to do just whatever it takes, they're being too picky, so on and so forth. Just because someone doesn't have that traditional full-time job and they've been seeking it out and they've been talking about it on LinkedIn, obviously it doesn't mean that they're not working, doing maybe gig work or some type of side hustle or part-time job just to get by. But what we do understand is that many of these options are not enough to sustain you when things get tighter and tighter as prices increase more and more in this country. So what I want to talk about to back up what I understand from being an individual who has a business where I help company staff, whether it's contract and direct hire, I understand that there has been an employment issue for some time. And so there's some information that I want to bring to light. It was an article that I saw on Yahoo, and it talked about what's called functional unemployment. And so according to a recent report from Yahoo News, approximately 1 in 4 Americans are considered functionally unemployed, a term that encompasses individuals who are unemployed, underemployed, or who have dropped out of the labor force due to discouragement or other barriers. And that is what I see so often. I've seen people who have tried for so long and they've completely given up. And depending on how old you are, that's easier. So sometimes when you're maybe in your 50s and 60s and you're not able to find a job, and you're able to maybe collect disability, or you're getting there where you can collect your Social Security, many people just end up doing that. And if you're young, maybe you just live with your parents and you have a side hustle. There's so many ways to do it now. So anyhow, this broader measure of unemployment highlights the limitations of the official unemployment rate, which may not fully capture the extent of labor underutilization in the economy. The concept of functional unemployment is part of what's called the true rate of unemployment. It's a metric that was developed by Ludwig Institute for Shared Economic Prosperity. This metric aims to provide a more comprehensive view of labor market health by including those who are marginally attached to the workforce or working part-time involuntarily. And that is a great point, because so many people just focus on the unemployment rates that they see on Fox News, CNN, all platforms pertaining to economics. People see that 4.7 number of unemployment being low, and they assume that that's the story. But there are other metrics. And I love how this metrics, this institute had taken into account these other factors that clearly paint a picture when there is an unemployment issue. So anyhow, for instance, in February, the functional unemployment rate increased by 1.3 percentage points, marking one of the largest monthly rises in recent times. The findings underscore the challenges many Americans face in securing adequate employment, despite official statistics suggesting a relatively low unemployment rate. And that's what I was talking about, that 4% unemployment rate being touted as the story. And it's not. There's a broader measurement that has to take into account those who've just completely given up, or those who want full-time work that will help them more than just pay their bills, but they must involuntarily take on something that is not enough. So many people resort to having multiple jobs. I just read an article the other day about individuals who have been gaming the work from home roles. So some are having 2 and 3 jobs working from home, unbeknownst to the companies that they work for. So people are doing whatever it takes to make their living situations possible. It's very tough. I think sometimes we get stuck into this mentality, especially if we're in survival mode and we see these numbers. We could really care less about what other people are going through sometimes. But it is important to know what the statistics show and to point out the difference between the unemployment rate you see, which is around 4%. The functional unemployment rate is around 25%. So think about that. 25% of Americans are functionally unemployed. You just have to let that sit in for a while, because the cost of living in this country has become alarming, and the housing and the vehicles and the food, it's all going up. And as I always say, this isn't ever a conversation about a collapse, but it is a conversation about how tough it is for many people who are looking for an outlet. You might be listening to this right now and you are a functionally unemployed individual. And you know that there are people in your family, maybe even your friend group, who think that you are not doing what you need to do to get a job. But it's just not true. Again, I see on LinkedIn professionals with bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, 10 years of experience or more, and they're still unable to find employment. A guy posted on LinkedIn today, he brought up a great analogy about this glass ceiling, this glass wall, essentially, he said, actually. This glass wall where he's on the outside trying to get in to corporate America after being in corporate America but being laid off. He's trying to get back in. And he's talking to the people on the other side of the glass, begging them to let him back in, saying they have the power to change one's life. So give him a chance. It is amazing that people have to go through these circumstances just to pay the bills. And this gentleman in that post made mention of what it used to be like. He used to be able to walk to an establishment, put a resume on the counter with the receptionist, talk for a little bit. If they liked you, they were going to give it to the right person. You'd get an interview and you'd have a great shot. But now with the automated systems and all the red tape and the ghosting and the ghost posting of jobs, it's so much going on. And these companies truly aren't productive enough to do massive amounts of hiring right now. I just talked about how Walmart's doing layoffs. We know Amazon is, we know Microsoft is, we know Tesla has been. These companies are laying people off. And I had a relative recently say, well, if you can't find a job, somebody can just go to Walmart and get a job. And I told them, do you know that Walmart is laying people off? No, Walmart's always hiring. No, Walmart isn't always hiring. They're actually laying people off. They're restructuring their business model. And then I talked about how Klarna got rid of hundreds of people, almost 1,000 people, and thought AI was the move as far as technology for the customer service. And they found out that it's too expensive, especially too expensive to maintain. It's hurting their customer reviews. The customer base is not happy at all about the transition of using AI. So now they're not going to be as reliant on AI anymore, and they're rehiring people, but not every company is trying to do that. So this is where we are. We have about 25%, 1 in 4 people in this country are functionally unemployed. I don't care what that unemployment rate says at about 4%. That's not the story. You can believe it if you want to believe it, but that's not the full picture. It's much greater than that, because it doesn't account for the people who've completely given up on trying to find full-time work, who don't even go after unemployment wages. You're just kind of like falling through the cracks of the system at that point. So this is a real reality for so many. I just wanted to bring it to you. Please share your thoughts in the comment section. Maybe you're functionally unemployed and you actually are okay with where you are, because maybe you're closer to retirement. I don't know. Maybe you know someone who's functionally unemployed and you thought to yourself, oh, they're just not working hard enough. They don't want to work. They're lazy. They're bum. But maybe you're wrong. And I know every situation is different. Maybe you just got laid off and you feel the pain of those who've been looking for work for more than a year, and maybe you've been going through it yourself. Is there light at the end of this tunnel? We have, it's what, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. We have 6 more months. 2 more quarters, essentially. 2 more quarters for some real economic boost to take place. And I've said this before, and this needs to take place. Jerome Powell needs to lower interest rates. It needs to be done so we can get an economic boost, a stimulus going on, so people can have more money in their pockets and companies can have a cheaper rate to borrow so they can put it into their businesses and grow and hire people. And I know it's not a long-term solution, but it needs to be done. It needs to be done. So anyhow, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I want to thank each and every one of you for just taking the time out of your busy life, maybe out of your chaotic life, to listen to what I have to say and engage with what I have to say. I'm so appreciative. I thank everyone who has donated thus far and will donate to CashApp QuietestOnes. You definitely keep me motivated. I'm so grateful. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, until next time.